So I want to tell you a story. As you probably know and follow in our ministry, discipleship is a very important part of what we do, and we do it through the church. And so our orphan kids come to church every week, and they interact with church members at the church. About 3 years ago, the Lord brought us Lovinsky. Lovinsky is now 15 years old, and he goes to school with the other kids on the orphanage, and he's a good kid. He's a good student. He's been rescued from slavery. His life is good, but Lovinsky probably will not be like some of the Haitian kids and go on to college, because he's just not that type of student. So about a month ago, Lovinsky sees what's happening on one of the compounds where we're building buildings, and he's paying attention to one of the church members whose name is Emil, who is a mason, or he pours concrete. Emil's very, very good at this and builds a lot of the buildings for us. But Lovinsky sees Emil working, and he says to Pastor Puis, "Hey, what do I got to do what Emil's doing?" And so Puis says, "Well, I'll give you a try. Why don't you go spend time with Emil while he's pouring concrete?" And so some days pass by and weeks pass by, and last time that Pastor Greg and I were in Haiti, Puis reported to us that Lovinsky is now a mason. And so Lovinsky will continue with some classes, but he's now a mason, so much so that all the other kids call him Mason. Now that might seem like a simple story to us in the U.S., that, well, what's the big deal? But the big deal is here we have the local church. We have Emil, who's a church member who loves the Lord. We have a kid whose future is in question just simply because the country being a country of 80% unemployment. He's a kid that God's using to be discipled by a church member for the future and for God's glory. Who knows what God's going to do with it? But seeing Lovinsky the other day so happy in his new world. In fact, Puis said he was walking around with a spring in his step because of what God's doing. So what makes stories like Lovinsky's compelling is seeing what God's doing in the church through discipleship. And every single month, it seems like when I go, there's a new story of a new kid in a new situation that's happening similar to Lovinsky's. And Lovinsky's story is how we see God is breaking the back of slavery one child at a time, where the cycle of slavery is being broken, because here's a kid that's been rescued. He comes to the church. He's a part of a family that's taking care of him, and God's working in his life and providing a direction for him. It's a really cool story. Thank you, and we love how you might consider giving to it.